You are the chosen few.
It's gone, in case you didn't know. The servers for Bioware's multiplayer game Anthem have been switched off, rendering this online game no longer playable. For all intents and purposes, the game that was Anthem no longer exists.
In the beginning, we were slaves to the violent chaos of this world.
Anthem had, of course, been earmarked for closure for months, since the summer of last year, when the 12th of January 2026 felt a long time away. But now that deadline has passed and Anthem is no longer available to buy in online stores. If you own a physical copy, it's now just a useless disc encased in a lump of plastic, rendered literally worthless. A game you can still own and display on your shelf, but never play ever again. But it wasn't always worthless. Whatever you think of Bioware's ill-fated multiplayer experience, its shot at doing a Destiny, you can't accuse Anthem of being cheap. Boosting through the skies of the moody jungle world of Coda, filled with colossal architectural ruins which are grasped at and dragged down by viney tendrils of nature, was a spectacle of face-filling pleasure. Diving from the skies down into the water and then through it made it even better. This dramatic and enlarged playground that Bioware built around the game's foundational idea of flying was frequently stunning. There were gigantic pipes to fly through, waterfalls to race by, and brooding skies to soar towards. But it wasn't all zoomed out detail, because in the other half of the game, the walking around part in Fort Tarsis, your base, the intricacies were all up close. This is the Bioware part of the game, which is where the studio tried to deliver the kind of story-rich, character-rich experience that it is famed for. Here you found dialogue options and characters who you could have relationships of sorts with. There was elaborate animation and high-quality voice work, and it was gorgeous. A place that married high-tech and low-tech, a bit like Star Wars in the desert areas. A place of cobbled stone fortresses housing advanced mech suit garages. See it in the day or see it in the night, it was a place dense with detail and alive with activity. 6 years after its release, and right at its end, Anthem was still impressive to behold. In its final days, the Anthem subreddit, which is still awash with fond farewells, included a message in which someone described Anthem as the greatest what-if game there's ever been. And they're right. To play Anthem was to imagine what could have been. Whether it was walking around Tarsis imagining a single-player, storied Bioware experience taking place there, or flying through the jungles and wondering how a single-player game could have worked there. Even as a cooperative multiplayer experience like Destiny, Anthem had potential. There was a mismatch between the two halves of the game, but the bones of an enjoyable cooperative multiplayer game were there. There was fun to be had, it just hadn't come together enough yet. It needed work, like all live service games do. Constant work, and there were plans to do this work, to do a 2.0 overhaul, but they were, like so much else about Anthem, abandoned.
And the walls protected our families, loved ones.
Remember, we're a team. I'm right there with you.
The effort that was originally poured into Anthem was plain to see. Those long years of development and a mountain of invested money, you could see it and feel it. It's a realization that makes it all the more harder to accept something like this just being switched off and discarded, wasted in a sense. Even harder is reconciling that with the people still playing the game up until the bitter end. The people who'd, judging by their high character levels and elaborate paint jobs, been the people who'd propped the game up and populated and gave it the life that it had. All their time and energy spent on Anthem is now gone, their characters taken away from them, and it doesn't seem fair. Plenty returned for the end though, a mix of morbid curiosity and last goodbyes and unfinished achievement business brought them all back. How many of them, it's hard to tell, because for all Anthem was an online multiplayer game, it didn't have large social spaces to bring them all together. The closest was a launch bay where 15 people could get together, where even on its last day, an endless changing parade of people peacocked in their hard-earned armour, some waving, others loitering, wanting to share in some way in those final moments. This makes the fact that EA Bioware didn't do more to celebrate them and see them off with a hearty wave and a thank you even more heartbreaking. The company said thank you when it announced it was closing the Anthem service, but people say a lot of things. It's the actions that count. The actions here were, well, nothing. The in-game store still insisted on charging for goods until the end, merchants still expected your coin for crafting components, and mechanically the game still dished out meagre experience for you to slowly level up with. Nothing changed and the grind remained intact right up until the end.
As long as I'm a freelancer, I'll keep doing my job.
Someone looking after the game could have fiddled with the dials, if there was anyone looking after the game. End times are perfect for being silly and breaking rules, for removing restrictions and letting players who supported you be rewarded with consequence-free doses of delirious generosity. Have a party, let players leave with a smile, go wild. But no, abandoned in death, as it was in life, Anthem slipped quietly into oblivion. On some level, it's understandable, because why draw more attention to something you'd rather move on from? Anthem has been a ghost ship for years now. The 2.0 overhaul was scrapped in early 2021, which means nothing's really been happening in the game for 5 years now.
We want this reality to collapse. If it doesn't, we'll displace our entire world.
Another way of looking at this closure could be that it was kept alive longer than it needed to be. But this moment does bring to the surface an increasingly important question, which is what should happen to live service games in Anthem's position? Should we, as players, really expect a game service to run and run and run if no one is playing it? Should there be protections in place that we won't lose access to games we've bought or characters we've potentially spent hundreds of hours investing in? How should we handle the end of these live service games? Could their care be given over to the community? These are the sorts of questions movements like Stop Killing Games are trying to address, and they're good questions that deserve proper answers. Who knows, maybe this won't be the end for Anthem after all. But for now at least, it is an ending. For now, those copies of Anthem, whether physical or digital, are effectively useless. They are games you can look at on a shelf but do nothing with. They're digital thumbnails on a hard drive to be skipped over without a thought as you search for something else to play. You can't resell them, you can't give them away, their only value is to a collector as a museum piece. Endings are powerful because they frame what came before, but Anthem frames a story Bioware would probably rather forget. It's a story of a misguided gamble that ruptured the studio in a way that it could never recover from. Anthem changed Bioware and would have done even if the game was very successful. It was a turning point, and perhaps in Bioware's history, it was one of its most important games, and now it's gone forever. Which begs the worrying question, how long until we say the same thing about the studio itself?
Something is out there.
Thank you so much for watching this video about the sad demise of Anthem. If you enjoyed it, please do let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe to Eurogamer for almost daily videos about video games. Goodbye.